touching on the top prop bets in the NBA today. All right, guys, looking at the board for today, it is one that's looking like it's pretty loaded, especially in terms of NHL props. It's been a while since we've had some really strong NHL props that were like really worthwhile of mentioning, and today we're getting that. As it sits right now, I'm not seeing any good college basketball props. That will change throughout the day. It is a good kind of thing to, just be checking the kind of sportsbook odds to see if we are getting any big edges, because it does seem like there have been some very big edges in terms of like FanDuel and DraftKings kind of valuing certain players a little bit differently. And so you can gain a big edge doing that. Not sure I'll be able to, find any of those during this video as well, just because, that's not out there right now. And then just looking NBA wise, we are starting to get some fantasy score props in. That's exciting to me. Going to be an interesting slate. Like Zubac at 21.5 is very interesting. We got Quentin Grimes coming in at a low fantasy score. So yeah, an exciting video. I'm going to go ahead and get into and start with the NHL props. So the first one worth mentioning is going to be David Perron under 2.5 shots on goal. This is favored at minus 150 for the under to hit. Okay, so pretty good odds there. Obviously, we can see lately has been trending over that. And the thing that we're going to see is that for the most part, it does seem like DraftKings Sportsbook is the one that's the tightest for the NHL odds. So I always like to defer to one sportsbook as kind of, I don't want to say like the king sportsbook, but sportsbook that I refer to for consistency purposes. So DraftKings is actually suggesting that it's going to be a little bit tighter at minus 135. Still, on average, minus 150, one of the better bets that we're getting on the slate, right? Like we always say, the magic numbers like minus 137. I like to round up to minus 138 in terms of odd bets that are going to be favorable for us in the long term. So minus 150 on average is pretty good. Here's another one that is crazy right now. Minus 162 on average for the over to hit. Okay, that is insane. And that to me really suggests that this bet is either going to be gone by the time this video is uploaded or seconds after it's uploaded, or this number could potentially just be wrong. Because at minus 162, we are getting a 58% chance for that to hit if we take out the juice. That is insanely good odds. Now, once again, though, if you go to DraftKings Sportsbook, they have it closer to minus 135. So either this number is going to go up on DraftKings Sportsbook or the other sportsbooks are going to come down a little bit. The question is, how much is this going to change throughout the day? Or is PrizePicks going to bump it? If there's someone that's really pretty good at NHL, DFS, feel free to let us know in the comments section below which one of these bets are going to be the best bets for the day. Obviously, on paper, to me, it seems like this is going to be the best bet. So I am perfectly fine rolling with this. Once again, minus 162 for the over to hit. We don't really get that. So another one, Dylan Cousins here for under 2.5 shots on goal at minus 143. Like, guys, we just haven't had props lately that are minus 140 on average across the sportsbooks. And so today we are. Now, once again, we are seeing DraftKings Sportsbook a little bit tighter. If you want to pass up on this one, you can. And to me, I am kind of pointing these out because it does seem like the opening odds had a lot more discrepancies. So maybe before you place these bets, you go ahead and check the Sportsbook as well. Here's a similar one. Like Clayton Keller, on average across the sportsbook, is favored at minus 143 to be under 2.5 shots on goal. We look at DraftKings Sportsbook, they are still suggesting slightly that the under is favored, but that is basically a push, right? So maybe one that we stay away from. Once again, I'm just trying to give you guys this information. Like if I find a good odds bet, I want to present it to you guys. And if you guys feel like you have good information to use from that, it's really up to you. Now, I did want to point out too for Colorado here, Evan Rodriguez, the average sportsbook line is set at 3.5 shots on goal, but they are favoring the under at minus 167. So just an interesting number. That to me suggests that the line should be set at 3 shots on goal. Just interesting there. And then also one of his teammates as well, it was the exact same thing right here. Okay, so just an interesting thing that I wanted to call out. Jordan is favored at minus 143 once again for the under shots on goal on average across the sportsbook. So you can roll with that. Let's check out what his prop is on DraftKings. So minus 130. Once again, DraftKings is a little bit tighter, it seems like today. So this one seems like the third best bet if we're getting, unless you think the Perron bet is not that good, then this is the second best one that we're getting currently. But once again, that's kind of for you guys to decide. So under 2.5 shots on goal, this is favored at minus 150 to start the day. Now again, let's try DraftKings Sportsbook, minus 130. Okay, so like, I'm going to say this again, like I like to defer to one sportsbook as kind of my consistency point. And so we are seeing DraftKings is just much more tight. Another one here. So over 3.5 shots on goal is set at minus 145. So another pretty strong bet that we're getting. And this is another one in which, well, finally, DraftKings Sportsbook is kind of agreeing with it. So interesting there. And then the last bet worth calling out is going to be Logan under 2.5 shots on goal on average. Once again, minus 143 for the under to hit here. So we are very much seeing a lack of consistency there. It's really for you guys to decide what you want to do with that. So the top 4 NHL props are these 4. Perron, less than shots on goal, then over 2.5 shots on goal. This is the best one that we're getting on paper, and then these ones are all pretty strong as well. But we do see, once again, like NHL props are the ones that probably adjust the most throughout the day, so let's just be careful. Let's just be cautious with that. Make sure to check it before you really put in any of those props. Now, NBA-wise, guys, we got robbed by Zach Collins. If he just I think if he doesn't get ejected, if he doesn't get those fouls, he already had the over. But 2, if he just gets ejected a minute later in the game, his over fantasy points hits easily. Like if he gets 22 minutes in that game, he hits easily. That was super tilting. That's probably the worst bad beat in a long time. And that's coming off of Mitchell Robinson only getting 20 minutes, not getting any minutes in the fourth quarter the previous night, which probably would have been my best night in a long time 2 nights ago. And then to get that bad beat. And we had some really strong college basketball props that I had attached to Zach Collins last night because I was really the only strong PrizePicks prop that we were getting. Oh, it was just a bad beat. It was just like, wow, you couldn't do it literally maybe even 30 seconds later in the game. Like the timing of it was just so frustrating. I almost thought that we could potentially get a reboot on that just because of how bad of a beat it was. Because like it's a lock if he gets probably literally another minute hitting that over pretty easily. And obviously the foul doesn't happen then and whatnot. But looking at the board for today, guys, we do have a lot of injuries to kind of see what's going on. So Jalen Brunson is currently ruled out for New York. That is the first game that we have. Okay. So with that, we'll pull up that game. We can see it's a game that's, not the highest scoring, but not exactly supposed to be a blowout. 5 points, that's pretty good. We'll take that. And so we do know that Jalen Brunson is going to be out tonight. Okay, so with that, which players are most likely to step up? Well, we can look at Emmanuel quickly. He has by far the most minutes with him off the court. His fantasy points per 36 are 37 fantasy points per 36. So let's just go and pull up the quickly props that we are getting. So he averages 19.5 points per 36, 5.7 rebounds. We're not getting a rebound prop, and 5.6 assists. He averages literally 2.5 threes made per 36 while shooting about 7.4. Really, it seems like the props that we're getting him are correct. Now, the thing that I want to see is what are his projected minutes? That's what I want to see. All right, so he is projected to get right around 36 minutes. So I would ignore the edge here because obviously this is just going off of his averages throughout the season, not his averages with Jalen Brunson off the court. If we were to pull that in, we would actually see that he, once again, 37 fantasy points per 36 with him off the court. So given the fact that he's already projected at 31 without including the increase in production with Jalen Brunson off the court, it's literally 8.8 higher usage percent and then 11.2 more fantasy points per 36. That is pretty crazy. So if you were trying to make a prop on that, it would be looking at over fantasy points for quickly. It does seem like the rest of the props are correct. Now let's just call this out as well. Hasn't really had that many games in which he's gotten a ton of run. Last game, 27 minutes, 1 for 11. That was terrible. Easily his worst night shooting in quite some time. So the question I'm asking is he going through a slump right now? That's the worry. Typically, I love to attack players that are shooting the ball a ton coming in after a poor night shooting because, typically speaking, that trend is not going to continue. And so I'm curious, other than this last game against Charlotte, only at 25 fantasy points. That's a little bit concerning because Jalen Brunson didn't play in that game. Not a terrible matchup, too. Last game against the Clippers had 27 minutes, ended up putting up 22.5 fantasy points. So that's a little bit worrisome as well. But let's look at the last few games in which he's gone literally just over 34 minutes. 37 against Miami, not the best matchup. 22 against the Lakers, 39, 37. Let's see here, 36, 15. And so lately, it's kind of crazy. Lately, when he's gotten the minutes, he hasn't been productive. Now, if we go back further in the season, he was. But those were also easier matchups. So, if you were trying to bet this one, I would say bet over fantasy points. But also, to me, it just kind of seems like a stay away. Probably one that we don't want to attack too much. And guys, as it sits right now, I have been trying to include some underdog stuff as well. Really just comparing the fantasy point props because we do see the biggest discrepancies there. Haven't seen any today thus far, fantasy point wise. But, before you if you play on both sites, check Underdog to see if you're going to do a fantasy prop. just check it to see what their line is, because occasionally you could just be getting better EV on a bet by just betting on Underdog or PrizePicks, really. Like if you're betting, like let's use Zach Collins as an example. This would have been a bad bet, but it would have hit. Like Zach Collins was valued 2 fantasy points higher last night on Underdog than he was on PrizePicks. So, or like one, whatever. He was overvalued on Underdog. So you could have bet the under there and you would have got lucky. And if you guys don't have an Underdog account and want to play on it, just use the promo code in the link in the description below. That does help me out as well. And it also will give you guys some free money when you sign up. And so with us not having like too many fantasy point props out just yet, I might try to do another afternoon video today. We'll see. This always depends on the slate, how it comes out and how the props are looking. Like last night, or the last 2 nights really, I felt like we only had like 2 strong bets. It was PJ Washington 2 nights ago, and then Zach Collins last night. Like I'm never going to like force bets. I don't want to encourage like a bet that I don't like really strongly believe in. So I'll go through the process each day, but I don't want to just be putting out bets to make content. I want to give you guys the information each night, each day, and you guys can decide from there. Now, I do think this Quentin Grimes one is actually kind of interesting here. So Quentin Grimes, 17.5 fantasy points. Okay. And now why is that interesting? Well, we can see the last 2 games, he's been able to get over. And really, he's not someone that's going to see like a big increase in fantasy points, but he does average 6.3 more points per 36 with Jalen Brunson off the court. Now, we can see, especially in that game against Charlotte, he only had 29 minutes. So like his minutes aren't going to increase too much. He does average about 4.2 more percent in usage as well. So not terrible. So it's weird. Like this is one of the better props it's the best prop that we are getting right now in terms of fantasy score over. Okay. And let's see what his projected minutes are. 29. So he does average 24 or so on the season. So about a 5-minute bump. And we can see, like, based off the last few games, that this has been about right. I think expecting more minutes than this is probably expecting too much. But if we just take his average fantasy sports points scored times his projected minutes, we're sitting pretty good there. And then another one, I found this one very interesting. I really couldn't figure out why for Zubac. Looking at over fantasy points for him as well, projected minutes isn't going to really change, but if we just take his average fantasy score, 27.7. And so I want to examine this a little bit more because this does seem way too low for him. First, I want to see if Mason Plumlee played last game. Okay, so they had a game against Toronto and Memphis as their last 2 games. Zubac did get injured in one of them, and so his minutes were limited. And Plumlee didn't get that much more run. Now, last game against Toronto, only 16 minutes for Plumlee. I think we can kind of expect Plumlee to get, let's just say, 24 or so minutes. And so it seems like, and let's see, he finally looked like himself after battling calf injury at the end of February and March. So he finally looked like himself in his last game against Toronto. Thus, he had 27 minutes. And we can see, let's look at the minutes here. 27, 18, 28, 29, 28. So the minutes have been there, 34. And so it just seems strange for this prop line. I would say something's fishy here. I don't, if you guys know what it is, let us know in the comment section below. But this just seems like way too low. And I don't really get it. It's maybe let's check his matchups against New York. I don't know if they played, honestly. Let's see. New York, last time out 40 minutes, 21. I guess that could be why. I guess that'd be the reason. Maybe that's why. Just last time out against New York didn't get there. I mean, obviously you could argue that both ways. It's like, oh, last time against New York he had a bad game. Well, he got a lot of minutes. Like he should be able to get over that now. You could argue that both ways. Then for what it's worth, let's see Mitchell Robinson. This is just so frustrating. Still 20 minutes. I mean, we can see how random this was in a close game. The past few games, 32, 44, 33, 26, and maybe that was by design. Like I keep saying, this is the toughest part about late season NBA DFS is that the minutes are a little bit more unpredictable. That's the most difficult part. And so like his prop line still isn't terrible today, but I'm probably just staying away from it. It's weird. I feel like RJ Barrett makes for a great like DFS play because of his upside, but not the best like prop bet because of his downside. Like he could literally get 17 like DraftKings or FanDuel points and we'd be staying away. Like that would hurt us, but he also could get 40 and wouldn't be shocking. For like props, it doesn't really make sense to take in that risk. So yeah, I mean, on paper, the 2 best ones that we're getting are Zubac over fantasy points and Quentin Grimes over fantasy points. They are risky. It's like one of those situations where if we had to make a bet, I would probably make those 2. But I don't know if I want to like call it out to be like, yes, we need to bet on these. And so that's why I plan on doing another video, maybe around 3:30 Central Standard Time or 4. I don't really know. It really just depends on the slate. Like I don't really control that. that. Now let's just look at some other props that we are getting. Tyus Jones, you could do over fantasy or over assists. That's not terrible. And obviously the appeal with someone like Tyus Jones is simply the fact that we know Ja Morant's out. He gets the most minutes with him off the court, and he does average 8.2 assists. So his projection is slightly over that, 8.9. Favor to get over it. Like that's a pretty good one that we're getting. Like, you know, if we had to make a bet, I could see doing that one. And then from there, there's just not that favorable bets that we're getting. Like, I don't really like any of these ones too much. Kawhi, slightly favored over points, but don't love that one too much. Under bets, all the under bets seem to be correct. Could do Draymond Green under 7.5 rebounds, projected to get 6.8. Average sportsbook line has it set at minus 136, sorry. So that's okay. And then the rest of them kind of feel like we're forcing it. Probably like stayaways as it sits right now. Let's see here. But we can see like on paper, like they are all decent in terms of like how the sportsbooks are valuing them. There's just no standout ones. I did find this one the most interesting. So Kawhi Leonard at minus 131, the average sportsbook line has his over set at minus 131 for over 33 points and rebounds. PrizePicks has it set at 32.5. He's projected to get 35.61. So if we look up his like game log recently, he has really been efficient there. And he is someone that, you know, as the season has progressed, he has been someone that I don't want to say has been almost a free square prop wise, but it took a while for PrizePicks to really adjust for the allotment of minutes he had been getting at the tail end of the season. And so in a strange way, this might be the easiest minutes projection that we have. And like we can see, he's just been going off points wise. He's been going off rebound wise as well. Last time out against New York, 35 real life points and 5 rebounds. So I'm curious. Let's see his projected minutes, 34. And so we can see this is also probably a little bit too low. This could easily be higher. So interesting there. And then you could also do Kawhi points, rebounds, and assists. Not terrible. That's really the biggest edges that we're getting right now as it sits. And for what it's worth, you guys kind of know been hammering PJ Washington. I'm curious as to see what his fantasy points score will be again. Oh, here we go. Oh man, we'll see. I'll have to update this. Let's see. I'll update this real quick actually while I'm doing this. You guys won't know, but I'll update this real quick to see if we have any that stand out. Okay, so I just refreshed it on my end. Let's see what we got. Kelly Olynyk popping up there. Interesting. I'm curious to see what he's been doing lately. Obviously, great matchup against Charlotte. Yeah, I could see betting the over here against Charlotte. Obviously, Walker Kessler is expected back. They're still without Jordan Clarkson. So he's projected to get, let's see, minutes, 30 minutes. So yeah, if he gets 30 minutes against Charlotte, should be able to get there. I actually don't mind that one. On paper, that's the best one that we're getting. We can still see Mitchell Robinson still decent. Kelly Oubre is okay. I would still say, like, I don't mind PJ Washington for over fantasy points. I know the projections aren't exactly saying that. Does feel like we'd be forcing it a little bit at 31.5. I was hoping it'd still be about 29.5. I am curious as to where we are going to fall with like James Wiseman and projected minutes, because Detroit is they're banged up, okay? And Marvin Bagley currently questionable. So what would they do if Bagley sits? Would it be Duren and Wiseman starting? Duren didn't play that many minutes in the last game, and it was Wiseman. It was the Wiseman show. So interesting stuff there as well. We'll have to see. That's why I want to make another video today. That's why I plan on it. But once again, the board controls that. And just real quickly, let's look at these games. Make sure that there's no blowouts. No, these are all close games. And so actually, a buddy of mine yesterday got very lucky. He's a Minnesota fan. Was able to hit a nice prop with that Brooklyn game going into OT. So like it's not a terrible idea, especially on Flex Fridays, for instance, to target a game that's high scoring and a close game. Like you could do Milwaukee for that if the game stays close, maybe gets them to go into OT, maybe get lucky in that sense. Could do that with OKC as well, potentially. Like not a terrible like stacking strategy if you guys want to do that as well. And then as I finish this video, I'm just actually curious as to the props that we are getting still for hockey. So I'm looking real quick to see if they've gotten better at all. They haven't, but they also haven't got worse. So that's a good. So I know in the comments like yesterday, some people are like, can you highlight your bets even if like pretty much even if they're not like lock and loads? And I'm like, yes, but at the same time, I want when I pull up a bet to be like, hey, I'm placing this bet. I want it to be the strongest one as possible that we have confidence making it. Okay. Now I will do that today. Okay. These are the strongest bets that we are getting on paper thus far today. We did see Kelly Olynyk going against Charlotte. That's a good matchup. As long as those minutes are there, around 30 minutes, he should be able to get there. Quentin Grimes, just with Jalen Brunson off the court, more times than not is going to get over this. Now his minutes are going to go up slightly, but not as much. They're about to stay the same as they have been lately in terms of minutes. So not too crazy there. This one is weird to me, guys. If you see or if you know why this line is this way, it just seems strange. Let us know in the comment section below. And then these are the best hockey bets, you also could throw in Josiah there as well for over 3.5 shots on goal. That was the next best bet that we were getting as well. And I'm actually curious. Let's just look on here to see if we are getting them. We still get that on Underdog, and we're still getting those on Underdog. So that always makes me a little bit cautious, just given the fact that typically Underdog seems to react to numbers a little bit faster than does PrizePicks. So just something to monitor there as well. But that's all for today's video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you had a good Friday. Hopefully you guys have a good weekend. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing. Real quick as well, I forgot to mention the Kawhi Leonard rebounds and points. That is a pretty good one that we're getting. Just looked on Underdog. They have that one set at 33. So we're getting like about a half of a point or a rebound there just by betting that on PrizePicks. So they are undervaluing that a little bit. If you think that Kawhi Leonard has a bad game today, that's fine. Bet the under on Underdog, but I like the over on PrizePicks.